Hi guys, and welcome to this video about glitches in another perspective speedrunning. We'll first talk about some basic techniques that are not real glitches, but still that have some importance. We'll then talk about some simple first glitches, then we'll go to the no wrong warp category, and finally we'll explain wrong warp percent. The momentum. When you swap characters in another perspective, the character speed is not saved. It is set back to 0, which means we can do longer jumps by swapping in middle of a jump, because the downward acceleration from gravity will be less powerful as the vertical speed gets cancelled each swap. Therefore, swapping characters several times is a good way to get far, but not fast since it takes about 0.45 seconds for a swap animation to end. It is not a glitch, it is even an official solution for a room in the mystery mode. The dev said it's more of an exploit of his mechanics that he discovered. However, it is banned in the glitchless category to make it more interesting. It is hard to see and you most likely already do it without seeing it, as it's effectively taking place every time you swap. So the way we tell if a glitchless run is valid or not is if momentum doesn't allow you to reach an otherwise unreachable platform. Do a jump that should not be possible under normal circumstances. The long jump. In this game, you can only jump when the character detects ground underneath, but for better game feel and user experience, a time frame buffer has been added to the jump detection. That means two things. You can press jump just before touching the ground to jump as soon as you land, or, when leaving a platform by falling, you have a few frames where you can jump in the air. When jumping at the last few frames, you can clear a 5-tile gap, which is not intended. This is more of a trick than a glitch really, but it's a really hard, unintended abuse of that mechanic and can save time in speedruns. So we consider it to be like a glitch, and it is banned in the glitchless category. Like the momentum, it happens pretty much anywhere if you don't only watch for 5-tile gaps. So we see these last few frames help you to land when you normally would not. The door jump. This one is pretty simple and self-explanatory. If you take a door and jump at the same time, you will jump in the door animation. To make it easier, you should jump to the door and press jump a few frames before touching the ground, because, as explained earlier, with a long jump, there is a 10-frame buffer on the jump action. It is almost completely useless, if not for bounce pattern manipulation, at the very start of a run, though it is a glitch, but is very easy to avoid, so it is obviously banned in glitchless. The bounce. You may have encountered it, as it's fairly common. A bounce is when you jump twice, without seeing the falling animation, which saves a few frames of landing animation. It may happen when jumping to a new platform with a certain angle, speed, and most importantly, position. It is permitted by the fact that the game sets the grounded flag, to check if you are on the ground and can jump, to true if there is ground 1 pixel below you. When landing, the game will not check for values lower than a pixel, because actually the gravity and speeds are such that the position can be as precise as millionth of a pixel. So it really depends on your jump to know if you will get a bounce or not. It seems to work in cycles of 4 jumps, which are themselves comprised in bigger cycles of 50 jumps, which makes them unpredictable because you cannot keep track of jumps in that pattern, because you mash jumps as much as possible to get the little speed boost when under a block. Though some specific locations seem to work almost every time. It may not seem like it, but that's one of the most complicated tricks in the whole game. Only one bounce is truly available by some kind of manipulation, and it's in the 3 first rooms of the whole game, for a gain of only 0.1 seconds. As a result of the almost impossible manipulation, and the fact that even when trying to avoid them, you might hit one with seemingly no reason, it is the only true glitch that is allowed in glitchless runs, though you cannot choose the bounce pattern manipulation, since the only way to do it is with a door jump, which is not allowed in glitchless. The elevator swap, ES for short, and elevator wall, EW for short. Before talking about this glitch, we need to talk about how the game turns the player left or right. When turning, the character is actually pivoting around an axis, which is a column of pixels on the character's sprite and hitbox. The interesting part is that the sprite of a player is 64 pixels wide and the hitbox is 40 pixels wide. They are both even numbers, which means that when pivoting, there will be a displacement of exactly 1 pixel to the side you're facing. We can use that to our advantage by getting characters stuck into each other. To do that, get a player as close as possible to another while facing his back, then swap immediately, then turn around. You are now locked in a special state in which you cannot jump. If you swap, the other character will be in that state. You can escape by simply turning around. What is really fun about it is that it even works above the ground. You can try and make a character jump, get another one to face his back, swap and turn around, and voila! Now you can turn around and quickly jump to try and get on top of the other one and get both characters to go as high as possible, hence the name elevator swap. Why does it work, you may ask? Well, that's because the column of pixels gets pushed inside the other character, thus locking him inside a collision. When colliding, the grounded flag is set to true, because it does not just look for a pixel below the feet of a character, but 1 pixel below any pixel of that character, which is why they are not falling and can stay like this in the air. Because of a jump buffer, you can then gain height quite easily and gain access to new horizons. This glitch is also possible without swaps involved. You can do that by getting as close as possible to a wall horizontally but being below it, jumping and turning. If done correctly, you are now stuck into the wall, like you would be stuck in a character. That's why we call it elevator wall. It can be really hard because of non-integer speed and position. That's why we need setups to really save time with these. ES and EW are pretty much the same thing, but the way to get them differs. They are both allowed in no Longjump, but banned in glitchless. The ejection. This glitch is sort of caused by the ES-EW. You get it by trying to get stuck on the very lowest row of pixels. It will eject you to the ground instantly. It is not an insane speed. It will always put you on the first collision there is below you in 1 frame. It is hard to get and often accidental, costing time in the runs. But recently a use for it has been discovered in the Nemesis room, the one where you must not collect a single key. The way it works has been discovered and understood by digging into the game's code. When falling, if there's a wall between the character and where he'll be the next frame, the game will decrement the Y coordinate until you are on the ground. For reasons still unknown, the collision check to know if a character is on the ground looks at your coordinates plus the sprite image scale, while the collision check to get you on the ground looks only at your coordinates with your current speed. So when you get locked in the last row, you are not considered on the ground, so vertical speeds get bigger, but still less than 1 pixel per frame. By rounding the sum of your Y coordinates and your vertical speed, which is less than 1, the image scale, it sees that you are inside a wall. The script will then execute to lower the character until he touches the ground. Warning, do not try that above a bottomless pit, as you'll get past the death barrier and crash the game. That glitch is not allowed in glitchless, but it appears in the Longjump. The Longjump and the Longswap. Easy to do, hard to master. These glitches are the main focus of the Longjump% category. To Longjump, you need to reset the room and take the door before the end of the reset animation. You will get back to the spawn coordinates of the room and you'll still load the next one. Also, you can now move in the cutscene. You may use that to your advantage to go through walls or just to get closer to a door. The longer you wait between the reset and taking the door, the longer the cutscene will last. Thus, the longer time you have before the new room loads, which can be useful sometimes to skip a large portion of the level. If you swap characters after taking the door before the fading finishes, you will do what we call a wrong swap. It can be used to access even more places with new coordinates and offers new time saves, though it is extremely dangerous and, in fact, a huge run killer. You need to practice the timing a lot because if you swap too late, your character will disappear. You're now soft locked and cannot even pause the game to exit. You have to close it manually. These glitches are a complete game changer. That's why they have their own category. This is it. These are all the glitches used in Another Perspective speedruns that we have discovered to this day. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.